everyone, Martin and Cassie from Supreme Tales here. We have loved filming this video and working with Cece. Cassie, why don't you tell us how we got into working with Cece?
So Cece's mum spotted us from training and decided to watch. She was very polite, bless her, and waited till we finished our session. She approached me and asked about training. Alex has been feeling lost with Cece and was struggling to find a local trainer willing to work with Cece and decided to see if we could help. We had a lovely chat and Alex told me all about her. Alex also helped me train calmness and no jumping with the flat coat I had on the end of the lead, so thank you so much, Alex.
When Alex and Cassie finished chatting, they exchanged numbers and in no time we were working together. Cece was definitely a project, but it was amazing to work with owners not looking to suppress and extremely fast track Cece and instead focus on her mental health, well-being and also filling in gaps in Cece's life to make her happier.
It's not always about doing more, sometimes it's about doing less, but more efficiently and not what suits the dog down the road, the dog in front of you.
We will not be speaking about Cece's medical history as this is private information and we also don't want to lead anyone in any direction as every dog's journey is different, even with some similarities. Your dog is unique.
This is very important to us. We are trainers and therefore would always suggest that when reactivity of any sort is displayed, you seek help from a professional and your vet team to ensure you are doing everything and your trainer can focus on a behaviour modification plan and the vet can assess and guide in the wellbeing department of your dog.
So, Cece is a 3-year-old German Shepherd. She has spent over a year doing walks at night only in completely secluded areas and could only walk with her dad as her mum was unable to hold her or feel in control when walking her and having her on the lead.
Due to the length of time Cece had not seen her triggers, they began to multiply and she had no skill to cope, so would just bark and lunge at everything. The first step was actually not a training plan as such, but a well-being plan for her mental health. I think many of us forget our dogs have emotions too and we can help them work through their big feelings rather than being angry at their occurrence. Let's lead with empathy and compassion and look deep down. Look at the why and not the bark of the lunge. Now, we wanted Cece to have 3 days rest before beginning her training. This was to ensure that she was being set up for success and all the stress hormones had a chance to leave her body without impacting her thinking. Alongside this reset, Cece's owners will set the following homework.
Begin conditioning a head collar. Begin hand feeding Cece. Introduce a licky mat, topple and honey pot for enrichment. Use the garden to play with Cece and begin working on basic impulse control exercises that we specifically tailored to Cece. Introduce free and expensive. We hold so much power over our dogs, we control everything. It's really easy to abuse this. Remember, a starving dog is not a thinking dog with a healthy mindset.
I will forever scream and shout. No deprivation equals no desperation, and no desperation equals willing cooperation.
Hand feeding is an amazing tool to build engagement, focus and desire to work. However, if all food is constantly only offered through training, learning new tasks and conquering challenges, then a basic welfare need becomes something that Cece would be desperate for. When this desperation kicks in, the arousal gets raised and Cece would no longer be learning and instead throw herself into a situation she may be uncomfortable with because she's starving. Now, this doesn't mean that we leave food down all the time, it just means that the easy tasks like a licky mat or rewarding good choices, a puzzle ball or simply a scatter feed in the grass is great. Every dog is different, so Cece's easy may be your dog's hard.
Cece was very destructive to see. Her owners were at a loss of what to buy as everything she got like toys and shoes got ruined very quickly. She therefore had nothing of her own to entertain herself with or engage with if wanting to self-soothe. Now, this is where free and expensive come in. Holding values is amazing. Real fur expensive tug toys, for example, are for training or walks only, but a toy from Pets at Home or the internet is to enjoy in whatever way she wants. This means that if Cece likes shredding, we can utilise boxes and finished toilet roll to let her have this outlet and enjoy the fulfilment her body is craving. To find a good compromise for Cece, we agreed to purchase 3 long-lasting shoes that would go around in weekly rotation and a tougher toy for her to carry around and enjoy playing with in whatever way she wanted. This way, balls on ropes and real fur toys were kept as expensive and kept as a currency for training. Finding a balance and not starving our dog of everything will mean that we aren't forcing them to learn or cooperate, and instead working as a team to show them a better way.
Now, a head collar, why? Well, we strongly believe that head collars can be amazing tools, but as we all know, can be extremely aversive to many dogs if not conditioned properly. It's not a whack it on and see how we go kind of tool. It takes time to ensure Cece would happily wear this without it causing her an even more negative outlook on the world. The main reasons we as a group decided that a head collar would be the best equipment for Cece was the following. Cece's owners had lost confidence in walking her, so if Cece had a bad day or something surprised her, they wouldn't feel like they would lose her or she would be able to hurt anyone else, with the extra control. Adding to this, there are young children as well as a pram involved in Cece's walks, and therefore the safety and control in those situations was extremely important to the family.
Now, with the above complete, a plan for the outside world was needed. How do we start? Well, Cece had not seen the world properly in a very long time, so we decided to start small and structured. We did the following. 1. Picked one park to go with Cece. 2. Began laying foundations for key skills such as obedience and recall. And 3. Alongside the already established, upped enrichment, introduced new brain games, impulse play in the garden, and lots of rest.
We wanted to avoid Cece's pre-associations with areas she knew, but also knew that Cece found new places extremely overwhelming. Picking a local park that had clear times for traffic meant it had great antisocial hours, new smells, variety of areas to explore, and also appropriate room for increasing and decreasing distance. Instead of night walks from the home, we moved Cece to having walks early in the morning in which she'd be driven to the new park and given time to acclimate and explore the new area without anyone around. This also meant that we would add predictability to her routine, which can cause arousal issues for some dogs, but actually built up confidence for Cece.
Absolutely, Cece didn't want to be thrown in the deep end, but the second she would leave the front door it was pacing, whining, tons of stress. So this was not a good place to begin her journey. On these early walks we began introducing food and teaching Cece how to slow down, sniff the grass, remain calm and enjoy calmness, but also to actually eat outdoors as not all dogs have this skill, especially when stress is involved.
Once the above was accomplished, we began adding control triggers. We used Sherlock and Cinnamon and slowly began working on this with Cece, as well as let her enjoy neutral walks as a group, so she gained the ability to sniff and ignore them, but also know that they were safe and she didn't have to worry. This also allowed us to build up Mum and Dad's handling and show them how to manage Cece, how to guide her, what to expect from her, and how to build up her confidence.
During this time in these sessions, we took the time to begin using the head collar outside, as well as focusing on Cece's opposition reflex. We worked really hard to teach her that pressure didn't mean anything negative. It doesn't cause her to be stuck or a cue to bark. Instead, it means to check in with us and we will guide her from there. This way she learnt to relieve pressure on the head collar rather than allowing it to charge and fuel her reactions.
See, tension instinctively can create 3 responses, the first being fight, the second one being freeze, and the third one flight. And Cece would go straight into fight, so changing this response was a massive piece of the Cece puzzle.
I like the term loading with Cece. The tension would fuel her outbursts. Cece was like a ticking time bomb, as her stress would grow and grow, so she was just having outburst after outburst. This is an autopilot of responses, not Cece thinking.
Yes, exactly. Instead, the lead was just a backup, so we had room for mistakes, alongside voice cues and lots of training on heel work and direction changes. The lead wasn't such a relevant part of her walks. You may hear some trainers say, tension breeds tension, and it's extremely true.
So if not taught otherwise, tension can be extremely aversive, no matter the equipment. It stops the ability of flight, so fight is commonly chosen, and this was the case for Cece. She felt stuck in the moment, so she would be more on alert as a safety mechanism rather than viewing this as a communication and a reminder that we are there with her and can help her make a better choice.
Once we accomplished this, it was time to start changing the times we went to the park and begin seeing real life distractions and really start her journey.
As well as find her threshold and how triggers rank in her mind.
Key terms we discussed and explained to her family for Cece were as follows.
1. Counter conditioning.
2. Desensitization.
And 3. Flooding.
This allowed us to work on changing Cece's emotional state, create and reinforce desirable behaviours to substitute her current go-to lunging and barking.
But also do this without Cece going into learned helplessness, as well as complete overwhelming shutdown. This is why finding the threshold is so crucial, especially with multiple triggers. Triggers are the things around that Cece gets upset over. But if we find the right threshold and stay within that distance, Cece will not be stressed around that trigger and it will be no bother. Which does mean starting as far away as needed. This is the overwhelming part of training, but when we work this bit out, it sets us up for such great success. But also gives us a starting point, where we know how to take steps forward and make things more difficult, but also give Cece the right space if she begins to struggle.
Now, to rank Cece's triggers from most intense to least were as follows. Dogs were number 1, bikes number 2, joggers number 3, people number 4. But remember, this is a basic overview. A really senior chihuahua versus a man wearing a high-vis jacket is going to have to be reassessed. So remember, this is a guide. It's like playing top trumps.
So we began flipping Cece's perception. She focused on learning that the previous negative trigger now predicted something else. Remember, reinforcement is all around us, so it's not always about the treat. Sometimes just going the other way and having a sniff was much more rewarding.
Every dog is different, but Cece found movement harder than stationary work, where we stayed in a familiar area and got to watch, come up with new conclusions and learn skills like disengaging.
With stationary work, we found Cece felt less need to scan the environment, felt less alert, even in a park that she knew very well at this point. This way, she could watch and we could work on her response and reinforce what we liked her doing, as well as her beginning to change her perception from scary to neutral. One of the main ways to help Cece process and willingly participate with treats was placing them on the ground. Cece not only found moving food much more desirable, but was encouraged to sniff and find the treat, which began teaching her a new pattern of disengagement, as well as stop fixation and avoiding loading from her.
One thing we found to be very important was using Cece's kibble alongside treats, but very importantly, did not limit her food to outdoors only. Now, the reason for this is that treats are super motivating, but if Cece was not able to take kibble in these situations, then we could actually be pushing her too fast. As it's very easy to really want something, follow it with tunnel vision on the treat, and then Cece would get spooked and surprised, setting us back.
Yes, tunnel vision is really great. As management, it is not training. Eye contact and focus is great, but stopping Cece from seeing the world would have been counterproductive. This way, mixing lower value and higher value alongside free food and enrichment means that Cece was never desperately cooperating and would disengage or also choose other reinforcers like sniffing. This allowed us a really healthy balance for her learning.
Using things like Magic Hand can be amazing. Creating tunnel vision and a clear reinforcer has been a massive help when the world threw situations at us we weren't ready for. So we could keep training without regression, but we knew that when tunnel vision was used, we didn't alter our threshold knowledge.
We often talked before starting our session and continually repeated, working with emotions is hard. This is really true. We are not only teaching Cece a new language, working on her emotions, encouraging and rewarding new skills, and on top of this, working in the real world that will set her up to fail too.
This is a really important topic to discuss. Mistakes will happen, things don't go as planned, you'll be rushed by off-lead dogs, people will randomly touch a dog. We as trainers don't want these things to happen or to be true, but the reality is it'll often impact your training massively. So coming to terms with this is just another factor you can't control will really help work through those events when they happen.
Yes, 100% so important. Plus, leave room for human error. We as trainers move too fast, we miss signs of stress, or even disagree with the choice we just made in that moment. That's part of being a teacher, but also teaching an animal that doesn't think like us. Things will go wrong, but the key to these situations is having a strong plan to recover. Shake it off, focus on Cece and move on. It was just an event and we are past it, but also it's okay to have a little cryo event. Just don't let it consume your session.
Training is not linear.
It really isn't. Firstly, Cece has her own emotions. Good days, better days, bad days. Sometimes she'll be more sleepy, others she'll feel more frustrated. She's not an emotionless robot that levels up with experience and skill and never looks back.
We as teachers have to do all we can to set our dogs up for success. But if a dog like Cece goes from having a meltdown the second they leave the door, or see anything moving, to having fewer reactions, or these reactions reduce in intensity, or maybe her recovery period is much smaller, all these successes, even though it may not feel like it, it's important to analyse these situations based on your journey and not compared to the goal of 0 reactions.
It's why we always have an I can't plan with our clients. So everyone is different, seeking help and learning can be a vulnerable situation, especially when you've lost confidence with your own dog. With Cece's owners, every time they handled, they knew the second they felt overwhelmed, stressed, or like they couldn't handle something, then the lead would go straight to Martin or myself, whoever was closer. This allowed them to have their own management plan, and after going through situations and making choices in front of them, we could discuss together if that was actually the best option or what else we could have done.
It's really easy to live in a "Oh, I could have done that," world. But that's not realistic. Most learning happens from the debrief of why I made a decision and whether I would do the same again or choose a different route. And I can't plan was definitely a make or break for Cece's family.
I love our I can't plans. It also gives us so much communication rather than our owners using tools like suppression and fear of speaking out because they don't want to get things wrong. We can't give our dogs voices and not our clients, as we're turning them into teachers too. I will absolutely ensure that my owners take the lead and do some handling in front of me and ensure we polish off what we can and also problem solve any habits that may not be beneficial. Like Cece's family was very keen to pull up and go tense when dogs were around, adding to Cece's reaction rather than helping her to de-escalate the event. With my clients, it's really important that I motivate, build confidence and make them feel like they can do it. See, Cece's mum and dad were very different. Cece's dad more confident, but Cece's mum much more aware of Cece's body language. When training with Cece's mum, we worked on her thresholds before going at Cece's pace. As Cece advanced faster than her mum could feel confident in handling with less distance. With Cece's dad, we worked on slowing down and making sure that he let Cece watch and reward good choices, but also let Cece make choices rather than giving her too many instructions or just powering through and hoping for the best in situations. It's not so much about Cece, she can't learn if her family isn't confident to teach her.
I always think of the 4 types of learners. It's really helpful to know what best to do. With Cece's dad, he learned best and most from kinesthetic, as Cece's mum is much more visual. This means that Cece's dad benefited most from handling and doing during our sessions. Cece's mum gained the most information from watching her partner handle Cece, as well as watch back the videos from sessions and practice at a slower pace in her own time, as well as watch back the videos from sessions and practice at a slower pace in her own time and film that and send that through to us.
Cece's mum really took more time with handling around Sherlock and Cinnamon, as this built up her confidence, as she wanted to be sure that she had the skills to do this without panicking with Cece. As Cece's dad was very happy to jump in, and as soon as Cece was ready to decrease distance and handle situations with other dogs around, he got straight to work.
One of the most crucial parts of training Cece's owners was making sure they trusted their decision making and how they handled situations. Until they felt confident and knew what they were looking for, it wouldn't have been right to keep pushing Cece into harder situations. Sometimes the human learns slower than the dog, but the dog can't keep learning without the human.
Especially when moving on to rewarding choices rather than just training.
You see, Cece very quickly learned what pays and began making great choices on her own.
The debate of rewarding choices versus training and neutrality versus obedience will save for another day, but with Cece this became a tool that began reinforcing her actual change in emotion rather than just teaching her how to cope and think through hard situations.
Having Cece's mum and dad be confident in what they were seeing, how they were judging situations and her body language meant they could focus more on actually reinforcing what Cece was already getting right and reinforce the continuation of her growing these new conclusions.
Now let's take a pause. This all sounds so full on, so let's explain another side that Cece's owners did amazing with alongside this training journey.
Alongside the training plan, we worked on a plan for normal life. We chose a local park that we knew well. The main choice for this space was the fact that it was spacious, not in an extremely busy area, and on top of this you could see everything around you, so avoidance and decompression could be prioritised as needed. Cece was able to be a dog, giving her time and ability to run, play and enjoy free food and toys, showing her the not so scary side of the outdoors, but also giving her the right balance of learning and actually enjoying herself away from the stress and thinking. Sniffing has been amazing for her. Information gathering in peace has been one of her favourite activities. During this time, Cece was able to practice her basics such as recall and name response, building a strong reinforcement history and positive association with the cues, which actually built up their reliability when used around triggers.
This is actually an amazing time to introduce toys into Cece's training as a reinforcer, as we were away from triggers.
Toys are one of those tools that are so incredibly powerful, but they also raise arousal. Now, Cece didn't have much tolerance to handle this feeling when arousal occurred in her anxious brain. It dulled down her ability to think logically and rationally, and on top of this would increase her survival responses, leading her straight into fight. Over-arousal would mean Cece went over threshold and therefore her ability to think was gone.
Stress is stress to Cece. Angry or excited, these feelings cause the same reaction. So this is why Cece was working on impulse play in the garden, but began using these empty and easier walks to normalise toys and teach her that she can think around them when outdoors. This did mean avoiding anything we can't play with together, like balls, unless on a string. Doing this in a calm and relaxed environment allowed us to later begin using them as a high reinforcer around triggers.
Toys are not the only arousal racer that led to Cece going over threshold. Her main three were 1. Fuss, 2. Toys, and 3. Movement.
Cece needed to naturally teach herself how to recover. Best time to do this is when the stressor is a positive and not a negative. So using toys, giving her a big fuss, asking for harder cues in the presence of her favourite treats, and running with her, to then stopping suddenly and waiting for calmness. Cece quickly learnt the skill of coming down from heightened states faster and faster. This was another puzzle piece to continue her training journey and progress her training plan around triggers. We can teach so much through just having fun with our dogs.
Once Cece was doing well with this, we added direction changes, jogging, quick stops and pace changes to her lead walking. As we knew Cece could now handle these and stay thinking when we used these tactics, it means Cece was now kept more on her toes as we became unpredictable, gave her more of a task, which is follow the unpredictable and crazy human at the end of the lead.
As well as begin teaching a disengagement response of giving space, turning away from triggers, especially dogs and bikes, was massively important for Cece, as well as making lead walking much more fun and engaging.
Once all of this was added to Cece's skill set, we began introducing different types for walks and different environments too. We soon were exploring adding the local shopping area to Cece.
We began by going to the area where nothing was open. This was best as very few people were there. Cece could become familiar with the smells and not have to worry about crowding or surprises. We played around with all her reinforcers as well as worked out if a certain area or trigger was more difficult when in this environment.
After her owners worked hard on all the above and the new additions, we began going at more peak times and varying when we visited these areas. Once we hit a new target, we don't always have to make that our starting point. Normalising and generalising everything takes time, but also means that going back to easy and then hard allows processing to occur and make sure that Cece was not overwhelmed.
Generalising in dogs, what an amazing topic.
Listen closely if you've made it this far. Dogs are really bad at generalising.
They really are. It takes many repetitions in time to help a dog generalise concepts and situations. It's like when we begin learning to drive a car, we start in an empty parking lot and learn how to turn on the engine. Doesn't mean that we have mastered it enough to go driving in the middle of London confidently. So for Cece, a sit in the house is much different to a sit in town. It took time and patience to help her begin the generalising process.
We like to say, dog doesn't equal dog. Now bear with us.
Size, colour, body shape, body language, learned social skills, height, gender, exaggerated features, and so much more make up a dog.
Therefore, one dog may be okay, it doesn't make all dogs okay.
This is why when training with Cece and her family, we worked hard on teaching them who was good to work around and who we would avoid. This continues to build positive associations and means we can use the real world to our advantage. Dogs on lead and older dogs that don't care about their surroundings are an awesome choice, for example.
Whilst we're on the topic of generalising and making good choices, I would like to stress that lowering and hand signals are not the same. It's very unlikely you have a competition dog that cannot have any visual help to complete a cue and are still watching this video. We do think removing the food lure is very important, but use hand signals to your advantage. Our dogs are learning a new language. It may not sound the same around a screaming child or a crowd. We use lots of hand signals with Cece and they have been a massive help to set her up for success and help her in situations she finds more challenging.
Another great way to help Cece and her family was using a warning jacket and a long line. A warning jacket encourages people to stay away. On top of this, a long line when enjoying free time allowed us to guide Cece when needed, but also give her the illusion of freedom so she could enjoy the world in her own way.
Yes, there was always people that didn't care, but it helped more, and that's all we can ask for. The long line especially gave us much more confidence in knowing she couldn't do something silly or unpredictable, which in the learning phase is extremely crucial and helps us trust our dogs and avoid self-reinforcement of undesirable behaviours too. Now, this is Cece's journey and Cece's only. This is not a training plan. If you're struggling with your dog, find a local trainer and reach out. One of the best quotes out there is, your dog isn't giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time.
We wanted to say a massive thank you to Cece's owners for letting us document snippets of our journey together and for being such an amazing family to work with. We can't wait to make more memories with you.
Thank you for watching. Well done if you've made it this far.
Have a supreme rest of your day.
Bye.